All right, welcome back into the Cherry Picking Podcast, wrapping up week 3 of the NHL season here. Boys, I've obviously got Dave, man, Gav, and Levi, the intern, still with us here. He was able to come back on the show this week, thankfully for us. Levi, how did you enjoy your first appearance on Cherry Picking?
It was lots of fun. I love getting up here, talking shop.
Talking
hockey.
We should talk about the fact, or maybe it was my fault, but we were completely wrong about the price tickets at Mullet Arena for the home opener. That's actually tonight.
Weren't they saying that like cheapest one is like $150 or something?
But Ave was just telling me there's a student section.
Yeah, they have. So the band is going to be there.
No,
that's awesome.
And
that's
the
cool.
student, they're going to have allotted seats for ASU students that are going to be $25. So that'll only drive up the price of the other seats because there's less of them. Just becoming less and less seats for the public every single day.
Yeah.
Is there a way to finagle your way into the student section if you're not a student at Arizona State?
You definitely have to have a student ID, I would think.
Do you think becoming like an online student at Arizona State would be cheaper than actually buying season tickets?
The Harvard of online, I've heard. I don't know if that counts. That's a good point.
That is a good point. Yeah. And of course, people have seen the viral clip by now of the dressing room.
Very NCAA women's basketball COVID year-esque.
Very similar to the two weights they had.
Yeah. It looked like it was almost in the same room. Like it was just a vacant space with curtains and shit.
Yeah.
Like that's pretty much it.
I mean, there's nothing covering the top of this too. So the Coyotes some of their personnel could go outside. I'm guessing you're not really giving anything away right before the game.
Well, maybe.
But you can definitely just hear over what they're saying.
I can't wait to hear what the experience is like from the players and stuff. Like just
it's going to be.
It makes me want to go even more now though because it just seems like a complete circus.
Yeah, it's Firefest.
Yeah,
the NHL.
It's
Firefest. Yeah.
But it's Bettman who just really
he won't let go
Arizona
of it. He won't let go of Arizona.
But is it just Quebec City's the next? Where would you ideally move this Arizona team to?
I don't know if Quebec City is the market there. If there's a market there anymore that the NHL wants to go to for whatever reason, I don't know. To be honest, I'm not really sure.
It's got to be Hamilton. Remember?
I think realistically, you could put
that was the Connecticut guys, right?
Yeah, that was Jim Balsillie.
Danbury, Connecticut.
You wanted to bring them there.
Is that in Connecticut?
No, I think realistically you probably could slot an NHL team in anywhere in Ontario, especially in the GTA. If you had a competitor for the Leafs, that could be interesting, and I think you'd have no problem filling it. They love hockey. Junior games sell out here, but
if you have an inexpensive, it's like the Cubs and the White Sox. The Cubs are going to price up the tickets because they're in a classic stadium. Yeah. They have all the history, and then the White Sox, you can just follow a team that'll be just as competitive pretty much every year, but you can go watch it for half the price all the time. So I know we get greedy as being a team, province that could have 3 NHL teams, but it's like there really is no competitors for the Leafs, and they'll keep gouging people with prices if they don't change
exactly. That. You see it too whenever like at Sabres games, there's just so many Leafs fans. Yeah. Same with Sens games. Like it's pretty much majority Leafs fans at both those stadiums. If I want to spend out of pocket to go to a game, I look to go to a Sabres game before I look to go to a Leafs game.
Wow, sure, interesting. Yeah, but you love driving. I would never do that.
I mean, it's an hour.
I'm with you on that. It's especially. I mean, it's almost impossible to do now. Getting like a Leafs Sabres game in Buffalo. Yeah, just obviously people are over that, but still, like just to go enjoy hockey, I'm obviously saving all that money to go watch that and the Leafs. Although, like, if they did put it somewhere else in GTA or Ontario, like, I feel like they'd have a tough time getting people to, like, nobody's really, you're a Leafs fan if you're in that.
No, I think they could do it easily because the problem with the Leafs fans and I am a Leafs fan, but going to the games is that it's so fucking corporate.
Oh, it's
Imagine they did like something in Toronto where it was just like no corporations can buy box seats.
Yeah.
And like it's a more affordable option to go. I think their fan base would go really quick because a lot of people are getting sick of the Leafs shit.
Yeah.
I know I am.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I mean, tough loss to San Jose last night. This road trip for them is not good for the roster that they have. They have a lot of young guys who want to have fun in Vegas. Like going from Vegas to San Jose, like it's just not that they should have lost those games because of that. Like they definitely should have won at least one of these 2 games that they just played over the last week. But I'm sure they're out doing nonsense.
I was also looking at, standing and said this to you guys right before, the Leafs are lucky. You also told me this, that every team's like 500 or better in the division, but it's only the Bruins who are 7-1,
really good,
who are really the Leafs are still in second place and they played their worst hockey in years. It feels.
I don't know. I think something just feels off about the team though. Like last year, they went out and swept that road trip, and I just don't see the confidence really. Like it is kind of a shitty start. It's early, easy to overreact early, but I don't know. From what I've seen, it's just something needs to give there. They really should have made a change this offseason. I think they're becoming that, like people have said it a lot now, but like Kawhi Raptors territory where, okay, maybe it is time to move a big piece out and actually pull in other pieces, shed some of that cap space. Like I don't know, they just lack depth of like actual gritty guys, that energy guys. They just have all skill and there's no firecrackers in the lineup.
All fans and every analyst has been saying this for the last 4 years, and they just continually refuse to do it. So, I mean, I don't know. At this point, too, I feel like Sheldon Keefe's kind of lost the locker room a little bit. He was motherfucking the D last night, too, after the game. I mean, I kind of get it. The D are trash right now, so it's fair. But obviously, all the superstars aren't performing, I guess, to their caliber at this point. Matthews scored last night, so did Marner, but still, obviously, some things to tidy up there. But for the show today...
Yeah, the power play just looks like garbage.
We could talk about the Leafs for the entire show.
I know.
Leafs lunch?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, fuck that. So, a couple topics we'll be talking about today. First one being a former Leaf, actually. Going to be talking about the legend, Phil Kessel, the new Iron Man of the NHL, 990 consecutive games, golf clap.
Yeah, let's give it to him. Feel the thrill.
No, I don't think anybody, he's the most unlikely Iron Man I think anybody would have thought of at this point.
Like Dustin Byfuglien would have been second on the list for me.
No, second on the list. But he's one of one, not even close.
But it defies all odds.
That's what I mean.
Everything they'll tell you when you're growing up, like you got to eat healthy, you got to do all this, you got to work out, you got to stay in shape.
A quick summary of Phil Kessel, it's just like Coke hot dogs.
Yeah.
And that guy's played the most games.
Diet Coke?
Diet Coke,
okay.
No, yeah. Coca-Cola hot dogs.
Okay.
Probably nose beers too.
Maybe a little of those too. It's just not, it really, I think.
He had to have taken care of himself better than people let on.
No, dude. No. Even when at the Olympics, like they said, when he went in Sochi or whatever it was, they went into his room and it was just littered with like candy and like empty Diet Coke bottles. Like, no. Dude, there's guys I'm not saying he's like a freak of nature because he doesn't look like one. He's got like a potato body, but DK Metcalf's the same way. He says he eats like bags of candy, just works out a ton. I'm sure Phil Kessel just skips the working out part. Well, but it's very impressive. Like, you got to look at like the teams he played for one. He played with the Bruins. Did he win a cup with the Bruins?
No, he got just traded for a
second, right?
Well, the
Boston Bruins, 3 seasons. Played the Leafs 6 seasons. Penguins 4. That's where he won the cup. Yotes 3, and then now he's probably going to end his career in Vegas, I would think. Sure, after this season or next, he's probably just going to call it. But he's almost at a point per game for his whole NHL career. He's played 1,200 games in the NHL, which is very impressive. 400 goals, 559 assists.
Really?
959 points. Like, that's very solid. And he's fucking, like Gav said, defied all odds. 5'11", 210.
Yeah.
Short, squat little bastard. But everyone has said, like, he's a freak athlete. He's one of those guys who's just really good at everything he does. And, I mean, kudos to him. He's obviously good at staying on the ice.
Do you guys think that Phil Kessel is a Hall of Fame candidate?
I was thinking that. The NHL is fucking tough to get in. Though.
Yeah.
It's not like the NBA where Kyle
I think
Lowry
you could factor in, like, 2 Stanley Cups, cancer survivor.
Yeah, true. Ball cancer survivor.
Ball cancer.
Yeah. That's a good point. I don't know if I'd give him. It'd be tough. I think he's somewhere in the line.
He's like
there's
the
definitely
Hall
reasons.
Of, like, very good NHL player, but
well, who else would fit in that category if you could think?
Like
PK
Subban.
Saku Koivu, also
Subban,
cancer survivor.
PK Subban would be one, I think.
Okay, PK.
He never won a cup. Like, I don't think he'll go into the Hall of Fame.
No, he's definitely not.
Because we don't really... Do they cup chase as much for the Hall of Fame? I never really in tune with the Hall of Fame for hockey because they also do the ceremony in November as well.
It's a little different.
You don't really talk about the writers as much. I'm a baseball guy, so you hear about the writers screwing people over all the time. But I don't know. I'd hope so because I love Phil. He's
I hope so.
one of the funniest players of all time. Used the smallest stick maybe ever with cool, like the snapshot that he has. I saw a sports science video of how the 70 flex stick just barely hangs on by a thread when he takes a snapshot.
That's
every
incredible.
single time.
And he used to do the candy cane, right? When he was
does he not anymore?
I don't know if he still does it.
Phil Kessel.
Because I think they paint over the sticks now instead of making them
interesting.
You know why they did the candy cane, right?
No.
Because
grip?
Well, no, because they would
look cool.
They would use other companies' sticks and the ones they were sponsored by, so they would tape it up so they don't see what stick they're using. So if you were a Bauer athlete and you were using a Reebok stick, they would just candy cane
it. The same reason I did it when I was about
when you were
10 or 11.
Yeah, Dad, I need to do it for the sponsors, all right? I know you got me this wooden co-host stick. Actually, that's probably
Dad, I don't think this looks cool. I'm covering things up. Don't worry.
I think Levi secretly kind of liked Phil Kessel.
Yeah, why not? I like Phil Kessel.
No, I'm like him or I like him.
You are like him.
Oh,
yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
Phil, you treat your body like a dumpster, dude.
I don't treat my body great. The only thing is, like I've said before, it's not a secret. I'm a slow skater on the ice, and Phil Kessel somehow he's fast.
Yeah,
I don't know how he does it. You look up, he's an anomaly as a human being, and so like there's nothing that should catch you off guard by him. But yeah. So, that's a good equivalent.
And so in light of all this news of him being the Iron Man, and obviously we have some Leafs fans on the panel here, we're going to go to our favorite Phil Kessel moments and what time period they were, and if you can remember. Ave, you want to start?
I have two.
Sure.
Use one.
Sorry, I don't think anyone will have the second one because we talked about it before. But the good one, Randy, good one from the Winter Classic HBO series.
It's so good.
When Randy's just chirping him in the dressing room about being late because Bozak didn't get him to the rink on time. And Kessel goes, "Good one, Randy. Good one, Randy."
That's our fault. We're late.
Where's Bozy? He didn't get you here on time, Phil?
Good one, Randy. Good one.
They absolutely hated each other.
He had some good one-liners, though, Kessel, like stuff like that. There's multiple scenarios where he's been in that kind of lady. I feel like coaches would fucking hate him because he probably has like maybe not give a shit attitude, but
I think that's what you could call it.
Yeah, he's like, because he doesn't really take care of his body, doesn't work out, but he's just good. Like he's just good.
Yeah, I guess it's not. So you bring a young guy into camp and it's like, hey, you should kind of shadow what Jonathan Taze is doing, right? It's never has been said about Phil Kessel once.
If you look over to Phil Kessel's stall, close your eyes immediately, please. What about you, Gav?
I would say like some of the one-liners too, but honestly, that fight against John Scott when he was just like two-hand lumberjack chopping at his leg.
Preseason.
That was fucking awesome.
That was all time.
What did he get? Like 7 games?
Was that on Pittsburgh or the Leafs?
No, he was on the Leafs.
On the Leafs. So that was in the like John Scott, Patrick Coletta era of the Sabres.
Like John Scott's skating at him and he's literally just swinging like this, like baseball swinging his stick at him.
Well, it was, if there is such a thing, a fair fight. So nobody's going to get more penalty minutes than anyone else. Here we go.
Scott went after Kessel, and Kessel is given. Whoa, this has brought something on.
Yeah.
John Scott's a brick shithouse. So I mean, that's the only
Are they making
defense
a
you would
movie
have.
about him too?
Are they really?
John Scott?
Movies about everybody these days.
Yeah, it is Goon.
He's literally Goon.
Goon. What about you, Levi?
I've got my favorite one-liner that like you've ever seen from an interview is when he's talking with Pierre on the bench.
Okay.
Pierre's like, "Phil, how's your breath?"
Oh yeah. And
he's like, "Is it that bad?" And then you have a great chuckle. And he's like, "No, I'm talking about like your wind. Like, how are you feeling out there?"
It's not good, eh?
No, I meant in terms of conditioning.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, obviously, it's a fast game out there, and you just catch your breath and go back at it.
It's been fun watching. Keep having fun, Phil.
Thanks, eh? I can't believe it.
He just has the best laugh ever. It's just stuff like that. Like he's just one of like
I think
he's
teammates
one of the
have
guys.
to love him.
He's just like it seems like if you took a standard frat guy, threw him in the NHL, and he was really good.
Yeah,
he's just that kind of personality.
Fair enough. Yeah, definitely. I agree. Though that actually is an all-time moment. I kind of forgot about that. There's so many like him crushing dogs before playing at the ACC when he was with Toronto Maple Leafs.
I heard hot dogs out of the cup.
They're like we're in Ontario, we're close to Toronto, but we've been all to Leafs games. There are stations of hot dogs parked around the rink before you go in, like most places. But just the best that he would just do that before.
They said he had an ice cap every single day.
I can't imagine what the Phil Kessel diet looks like.
Matt Sundin was probably like this fucking guy because Matt Sundin was probably a horse.
There's no way they played together.
What? No, Sundin was gone before Kessel came.
Really?
Yeah.
They had.
Thomas Sundin's last season was like 06, 07. Then he went to Vancouver.
I thought Kessel would have been there
He was like
shortly after. But maybe they didn't cross over at all.
No.
I have an interesting thought-provoking question. Who do you think the second coming of Phil Kessel is? You had to pick one guy who's a little younger in the NHL right now to just be a Phil Kessel. Who is that guy for you?
That's a good one.
I can't really, nothing comes to mind. I'm trying to Mason McTavish gives me Phil Kessel vibes.
Yeah,
I'll be honest.
It's tough now because so many of these junior kids are grown up on the fact you have to skate 6 times a week and eat like this and blah blah blah. They're all robots now, and a lot of the players say that. Compared to Ave, what was the fucking Babe Ruth? Was it Babe Ruth? No, the Babe Ruth diet.
Yes,
he
had
the shit
4
that these
hot
guys
dogs in a day. Pint of
whiskey or something, just would eat a carton of cigarettes pretty much.
Eat a carton of
the same thing back when Guy Lafleur and them would play there. I'm pretty sure they're crushing darts on the bench. Ovechkin's kind of similar to Kessel, I guess, in a sense, just because they both don't care about what they put in their body, but Ovechkin definitely trains harder.
So Chara used to drink.
You can turn off that buzzer if you want.
Chara used to drink Coke on the bench too, right? Or was
that
just
there's a video of it, or a photo at least.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Phil Kessel, legend, Iron Man again. I mentioned, probably the most unlikely Iron Man. I think a lot of people would have. But when he started his career and throughout his career, we're going to be the guy who's playing 990 consecutive games. I think it was Yandel who had the record before, right?
Yeah, it was Yandel. They health bombed him to. They health bombed him to end the streak. Is that what it was?
Yeah, I believe so.
No, it wasn't Torts.
Because they were talking about
who's the coach then.
They're playing some younger guys, Cam York, I think was one of them.
Yeah,
but he was kind of past his expiry date anyway. He shouldn't have really even been playing really with Philly. He was probably the worst D-man in the league last year.
They were
so it kind of sucks, and it got broken anyway. So
yeah. All right. Next topic on the docket for today, we're going to do a fraud or not list. So I'm going to name a couple teams that have started to play really well at the beginning of the season, or maybe not really well, but definitely exceeding expectations at this point, and see what the guys think. So first team here, Buffalo Sabres, starting the season 4-3. Tied 4th in the Atlantic right now with actually 5 other teams. Ave kind of mentioned it. There's just a bunch of really average teams right now. There's a bunch of teams stuck at that 8-point threshold. Not a single team below 500 in the Atlantic right now. But personally, I think this team is a little bit fraudulent. They have a good record, but if you look at their numbers, they're allowing a lot of shots. They don't get a lot of shots on net. So Gav, what do you label? Is this team a fraud or not fraud?
I wouldn't
for
go
this year.
I wouldn't go as far to call them a fraud because I don't think anyone even has high expectations of them. No one's oh, this team's frauds. I mean, if they were later on in the season, it's too early. They are 4-3, but if they were I don't know, at a 750 win percentage, maybe I'd be okay, this team's a little fraudulent. But right now, I think kind of on track to what we think. They're going to be a team that's around 500. They could possibly squeak into a wild card spot, but I don't think they will. I think likely that'll be maybe the Sens in that spot or something later that we're going to talk about, the Devils, but I wouldn't really say it's fraudulent.
All right. Ave?
I think they're a year too early.
Okay, I agree.
A year, maybe even 2 years too early because they have such a young team. JJ Paterk is there, Krebs is playing, Middlestad's still kind of young, Jack Quinn.
Jack Quinn's going to be sick. I really like
so
Jack
it's
Quinn.
Okay, this team is showing the first line, Skinner, Thompson, and Tuck. It's a good line. It's a totally fine line. But it's hey, those are the old guys that are going to carry these young guys to keep going. Sure, if you can get these guys ready to go and playing well at this point and they can learn how to win, this isn't the year for them to win. They have Craig Anderson on this roster. I know it's Comrie,
but still,
Comrie's a better player, but it's, again, Owen Power's really young too. Darlene has seemed to have taken a step here too, which is really good when they
called it.
That draft capital on someone like that, but they're a year or two early from being real contenders. So I think they're just showing their upside right now.
Okay,
and they'll even out and they'll miss the playoffs.
All right, fair enough. Yeah. All right, Levi, I'll go with you for the next team to start. All right, sorry, man.
That's fine.
I know you really wanted to give your opinion on Rasmus Dahlin, but
Sabres.
I didn't know. Ave hit it all the great points.
I was gonna just exactly say what he did. I think every team needs a couple of years of exactly what they're gonna do this year, and I think they started hot.
I mean, they have had they've been rebuilding for 20 years.
Yeah, right. But now it's
new rebuild.
They've been rebuilding since fucking Maxim Finneganov strapped on that. Buffalo Sabres jersey.
That might be one of the best calls in sports.
Yeah,
hockey for sure.
He was awesome. There's some good. There's some great Sabres calls back in the day. Brad May as well. Penguins, next team on the list. Maybe a little bit shocking or surprising. 4-2-1, tied second with the Canes in the Metro right now. We would talk about the Flyers. We did talk about the last show. I still think that I made an in-office bet with one of my coworkers, Tyler McKillop, T-Mac. I said they're still going to finish bottom 2 in the Metro. He thinks that's not true. We're betting lunch on it, so that's it. Easy little bet there. For the Penguins, personally, I just thought a little bit of regression was going to come. Like, they have these older guys with Letang, Malkin, and Crosby, but they refuse to regress even late into their mid-30s. What do you think about this team, Levi? What do you think? Do you think Crosby can just continue to create players like Chris Kunitz and do stuff like that, or
like Ricard Raquel?
Ricard Raquel. Dan Heinen now is soon to be the next guy, like James Neal. Yeah, he helped Jake Gensel a lot. Jake Gensel's a very good player and was really good in college, but I think Crosby really helped him get to that next level early on in his career. So do you think that in a tough Metro division, they'll still be able to kind of make the playoffs and maybe even advance a couple rounds?
Yeah, I don't think this is a fraudulent team. I said it last show. It's something I believe that they brought these guys back. They brought back the big three. They're making these pushes, and if they're not going to do that if they don't think they have a chance. So I wasn't caught off guard at all about how they're doing, and they have the pieces, and they've had the pieces for a while. The guys like Gensel, Brian Rust, like just guys who will get it done. I don't think they're fraudulent at all. I don't know, they brought these guys back for a cup run. I don't know if they have that in them. They might need to make a couple more moves, but I guess it is a little bit surprising considering they've had these three guys and a lot of their players are older. But I mean, they just keep getting it done, and there's nothing really else to say. Like, I think we just need to expect that they're going to do this for a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Gav, you agree?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think I was a little surprised at the start of the season because everyone has that mindset. It's like, they're getting old. They're not going to do it again. And at the start of the year, we're like, holy fuck, the Pens are a wagon.
I know.
They look so good.
So, like, they just
Their
lost.
Two losses are
Edmonton
and Calgary.
And Calgary. So those are pretty good losses.
Yeah, and the Penguins or Oilers game just kind of got away from them. They blew a 3-1 lead.
Yeah. But they like you said, they were really good to start the year. So I agree. I don't think they're frauds. It's hard to peg a team as fraudulent with Sidney Crosby on it. So I won't.
Trust your goats.
Can you even envision a team with Sidney Crosby and the rest of those guys like just not even in the playoff race at all? Like, I can't. It doesn't render in my brain.
I know. I agree.
It seems like that could never happen.
I think out of the teams that would regress this year, and I said this at the beginning, was the Caps. I don't think I don't have a ton of belief in that team, but I mean, I have and other. I'm not considering myself an analyst by any means, but people have said like, oh, it's time for Crosby and Ovechkin to start regressing, but it's not happening. So all right, next team, Chicago Blackhawks. Chicago Blackhawks have a winning record right now after they traded away pretty much every single good player they have, other than Patrick Kane and John Taves. Brandon Hagel, Kirby Dach, Alex DeBrincat, all gone. They still have Seth Jones, Caleb Jones. They brought in Jack Johnson. They traded Fleury at the trade deadline last year. So their goalies are Peter Mrazek and Alex Stalock, who's actually been playing pretty well, both of these guys. But personally, I think this team's fraudulent. From the beginning of the season and even the offseason, everything that I kind of heard from people around the league is that Kyle Davidson was really trying to, it was time to rebuild. John Taves even said, I don't like what's going on around here. Like, I'd rather get traded to somewhere where he wants to contend for a cup for the last couple of years he's going to play. And I completely agree with that. That's totally fine to say. But I don't know. Gav, what do you think about the Blackhawks going into the season?
This team is so fraudulent. You see it every year. There's always like those gritty teams that kind of just come out hot. They catch teams off guard, especially the skilled ones, because they're just banging body out there. They're scoring shorthanded goals right now.
Yeah.
I think they scored 2 shorthanded goals against, I can't remember who, but it was like their second or third game of the season. Okay. But yeah, they're definitely fraudulent. I don't think they even want to be winning these games, really. Management side of things, maybe the players want to win.
Yeah.
But no, they're going to fall off. I think it's a pretty similar situation to the Flyers. Flyers is also Carter Hart playing out of his goddamn mind. But yeah, I think they're fraudulent. They're still going to be a bottom 5 team. There's no shot they make the playoffs.
I mean, Jujhar Khaira is the second line left winger. Like, no hate, but I thought he was the worst hockey player of all time when he was playing on the Oilers. Yeah, so
he's a grinder. Yeah, like you have.
It's not a second line
weird. They're fucking.
There's weird talent on this team. Like they get Taylor Radish, who's playing second line wing.
Domi.
Yeah, Domi again too. It Mrazek's on the IR again.
Yeah.
So any chance they have, I think it's just going to go. But if they just keep scoring 1,000 goals a game and allowing 1,000 goals a game, they might just be a fun team to watch. And that's all we kind of care about, right?
Anthony Cio too. That's a weird spot for him.
But yeah, they are starting Mrazek now on the IR. Tyler Johnson just got hurt as well.
No.
Like he's a little bit older, but definitely a guy that kind of holds that second. He was playing with Taves and Radish. I think that first line is definitely good, like Kane and Domi and Athanasiou. But other than that, I think this team is pretty easy to label as a fraud, and they're playing in probably the Central Division is fucking loaded. Other than them and the Yotes, it's really tough.
That's the thing. So. They've also like some of they have wins over the Kraken, the Red Wings, who aren't as bad as they used to be, and the Sharks.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and then they not teams in the division once they get
Florida
to the division.
Last night, but that was
that was
no, they lost to Edmonton.
No, they beat Florida. Right?
Yeah, last night. Yeah, they beat Florida.
Wow, I mean, good on them for that.
Didn't McDavid have a hat trick
last night? They lost to Edmonton last night, but did they not beat Florida?
No, they beat Florida. It was a huge. I remember it was like 3-0.
My bad. Yeah,
3-0 after 2.
Yeah, and then they lost.
Yeah, that was the game with the shorthanded goals.
Yeah. Right.
I bet it, so that's why I know.
There you go.
The under.
No.
Good call.
I had over on shorthanded goals.
Okay, last team for fraud or not, the Vegas Golden Knights right now. They're 6-2, first in the Pacific, easy division. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about this team because I've never had huge high hopes for Vegas, especially last 2 years. Going into this year with their goalie situation, Leonard was starting on LTIR. They have Logan Thompson and now Aiden Hill because Brossoit also had to start the year on IR. Their forwards and D, like the names they have on this team is great, but are they deep enough to be able to still make the playoffs and then go and make a run to the Stanley Cup? So, Gav, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Or I don't think they're fraudulent just because of mainly that division. And it pains me so hard to not call them frauds because as a Leafs fan, it's so fucking frustrating to see all the success they've had, and I've yet waiting over here for a playoff win. But no, I don't think they're fraudulent. I think they definitely are one of the teams to beat over in the Pacific this year. I think Calgary is an absolute wagon. I could see them finishing first and then Vegas second because Oilers still get a piece together. They showed last year that they can go on a run because of how much talent they do have, but they're still a shaky team in the back end. So I don't think they're frauds.
All right. Levi, any opinion on the Vegas Golden Knights other than, Phil Kessel's playing there. Do you think he's a frequent flyer at the casinos?
Yes. Okay. That's a great destination for Phil Kessel at this point in his career.
He just had a kid, man. He's settling down.
Wow.
That doesn't matter.
Good for him. Congrats, Phil. Daddy Phil.
Yeah, I really want to call them frauds. I really badly do, but they were 6-2. It's hard to do that with a team like that. And they're not getting killed. They lost, I think... What did I have written down here? Yeah, they lost both their games by 1 goal. Mm-hmm. So this is a team that could be 8-0 with a couple right bounces, which is insane.
Yeah, that is insane.
Yeah, it's hard to really, because you're right. They have the names, they have the guys. It's a weird situation, from an onlook, to look at, because it's these are solid players. This team should should play well, but just given their track record recently and everything we've seen from them, it's hard to do that. So it's a bit of a mind fuck right now.
It is a little bit of a mind fuck.
I think they just have a good back end. If you get good goaltending, they stand a chance all the time.
So that was the thing with me going into this year. Last year, they had the same decor, but they allowed an insane amount of high danger chances. All their analytics in terms of expected goals against were really, really high. And I was like, wow, with Pietrangelo, Shea Theodore, Braden McNabb, all these guys holding on the back end, very surprised to see those numbers. But this year they've shorted up. And I think honestly, Bruce Cassidy coming in, he's a phenomenal coach. I'm sure that has something to do with it.
I think Mark Stone being back too. He missed a lot of time last year. Yeah. Then Eichel's back now. He didn't play till what? December last year. Yeah. So I think they had enough time to start clicking together and healthy up. It depends. They could get hurt again, and they have so many cap issues that it's it's really hard to say what's going to happen with this team.
Yeah,
but
they're not a team who's going to be able to make a big splash at the deadline.
No, not at all.
And don't forget,
they might have to move someone out.
Shea Weber is on their LTIR as well.
Yeah, Nolan Patrick too.
Yeah, he's done. He's done.
I feel bad for that guy, man.
Yeah, that's too bad. His brain is.
And then
poor guy.
Robin
in the same
Leonard,
state
he's
as
done for the
Antonio
year
Brown's
too.
at this point.
He's not playing.
He probably won't. I don't know when he'll come back, but he had a
he a
shoulder
hip
injury. It was a shoulder or a labrum injury last year. And I don't know if it's the same thing, but from what I was listening to and hearing, like he played through it for a good chunk of the year last year, and I think that probably would have really fucked him up. Okay, so now playoff predictions. I know I said one team from each conference, but we're just going to do one team. So I want to hear your guys' best playoff prediction from a team that's not currently in a playoff spot. It's really early here, really early, like 8 or 9 games in for most. Sharks and Preds 10 games in because they played that bullshit thing over in Prague, but. Still good to see what teams you think are going to start really turning it around. Who wants to start with their one team that's going to make playoffs?
I'll go. I'll go because I have. There's some casual answers we can throw out.
Yeah, some casual
New
NHL
York Rangers.
Yeah, the Rangers, Lightning. I got
Wild.
I got
did the Wild.
I got contrary, and initially I looked at the West and I was like, I don't know. The West kind of, aside from the Kraken maybe being in the playoffs, like these other teams seem like they can hold their own, and it feels like it's shifting, whatever, how it's supposed to go. I can't find the word.
Like the East halfway through last year, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. But there's one team that they're not far. I think they're third right now, maybe fourth. I think the Kings.
The Kings, yeah. I can get behind that.
I like the Kings, and had they not done what they did last year, I would never, I would have thought the Kings were a bad team, but you watch them play, I enjoy watching the Kings play, and they've got a lot of young guys. They have Kaliev and Byfield and guys like Velarde, and they brought in Holla, who's they brought in?
Fiala from Minnesota.
Mixed up all the time, and Kempe. They just have a good core.
Yeah, they definitely do. They're very deep.
Yeah, so it's a team that I was expecting to make the playoffs preseason, and now to see them out and to look at the stats, they're. What did I have? They're 11th in expected goals.
Yeah.
22nd in actual goals.
Yeah.
So there's a disparity. They're also scoring like crazy and still losing games.
Yeah.
That's the problem. They're third in the league in goals against.
Yeah.
I think it's not simple, but if they can just maybe not allow as many goals, figure it out.
Maybe they should score more than they're letting in.
Score more and let less.
They're just scoring like a crazy rate of goals. They're
scoring a lot, and I would agree. I like that take. I bet on them to beat the Jets last night, and the same thing happened. I think there's a little bit of obviously, I wouldn't say miscommunication, but their goaltending has not been as good as it was last year. Quick came back last year and was a little bit better than we've seen. He was regressing a lot. Cal Peterson is shit now. Yeah, I think he's just a bad goalie.
He's from America, by the way.
He is from America?
Yep.
Okay.
He's from Iowa.
Oh, Jesus. That sounds right.
You should never have an NHL goalie from Iowa on your roster. I'll just start with that. I like that one, Levi. What about you, Gav? Who do you think is going to make a big splash from
in the East?
The shit start.
I could see the Sens making it.
Okay.
And I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here where I'm like...
Yeah, you love the Sens.
Well, I'm like, no, because I'm like, I don't want to see these teams do well. Yeah. Being a Leafs fan, I don't want to see the Sens do well. Scrolling on Twitter, seeing the Sens fans going, oh, we're better than the Leafs, we're better than them, blah, blah, blah. Look how good our top 9 is. No, I think they're a pretty solid team. Shane Pinto looks incredible this year.
Yeah.
He's going to be playing on the second line now, right?
Yeah, Norris is pretty much out for the year.
Yeah, so Norris is out. This team's up and coming. I honestly, it would be kind of fun to see them in the playoffs after I just said I don't want them to do it, but...
There's difference between bias and actual.
Yeah, it's I can get over it. I'll build a bridge, get over it.
They're a fun team too to watch.
Yeah, they are a fun team to watch. I could see them getting in right now. They would definitely be in a wild card spot. I think the Atlantic is going to be.
It's tough.
Bruins, obviously, I want to say Leafs. They're kind of scaring me a little too. It depends. I think they have too much talent to not just at least fall into a wild card spot. They're going to win some games, right? Yeah. They're going to. Everyone's also saying freaking out about it. They're 4-3. It's not.
I know, but they've lost to some pretty shit teams so far. That was the thing.
Yeah,
that's the reason why. They've lost to the Sharks now, the Coyotes, and the Habs.
In a scenario where, and I think that it can happen, the Sens make it though. That means that one of the Lightning, Leafs, Panthers don't make it. If we're just going to assume the Bruins make it.
Yeah.
And I know you were talking, Ryan, earlier that the Panthers could very well miss the playoffs, but I mean, it's just like
I know that's why they're hot takes.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like I think when you have a team like Florida and Tampa Bay, you can always be like, oh yeah, they're going to make the playoffs because they have good goalies. I think that's the case for Tampa. Gavin and I kind of talked about it in our preseason stuff for fantasy hockey. Florida's goaltending is pretty shit, and their fucking defense is not
so banged up right now too.
And especially right now, Ekblad out for a couple months, or it should be a couple months, maybe a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And now your top D pair is Gustav Forsling and Brandon Montour. Great defensemen, but they're very offensive minded. You know, this team has always been very like push the puck, play at a really fast pace. So I just wonder how that's gonna be doing, relying on Sergei Bobrovsky and Spencer Knight back there, who have not showed their best recently.
I think when there's teams in this spot too, it's always exciting to see. Like they usually do come and push out one of these teams that have been perennial playoff teams. Like it reminds me of the Leafs in 2016 when they played the Capitals in the first round, their first playoff round. Young team, they're hungry, right? Like they might make a run near the back half of the season and really steal one of those spots.
Yeah, I think it's not crazy to say that either Lightning or the Panthers are going to miss the playoffs this year. Yeah. All right, my team, and if you follow me on Twitter, you would see that I've already just fallen in love with this team. The New Jersey Devils, I think, can definitely make the playoffs this year. They play in a tough division in the Metro with all the, they're the Rangers. I don't think the Islanders are very good this year, but obviously some other top dogs in there with Pittsburgh and whatnot. The Devils, one thing, Ave showed me this stat yesterday. We were looking it over. Shout out from the guy from The Athletic, Dom. I'm going to butcher your last name.
I think it's Lucician.
So the Devils currently have an expected goal differential of 1.79 per game. Since 2007, 2008, only 16 other teams have been over 1.75 per game during any 7-game stretch of the season. They all made the playoffs, and 4 of those teams actually won the Cup. The St. Louis Blues in 18-19, Los Angeles Kings 2013-2014, Pittsburgh Penguins 2015-2016, and Tampa Bay Lightning 2020-2021. Now, the 4 differences of those 4 teams and the Devils, those 4 teams had goalies that could stop the puck. Right now, the Devils are really struggling with their goalies because listen to this, all these analytics, they're top of the NHL right now. They're first in expected goals percentage, second in Corsi percentage, first in expected goals for per 60, first in expected goals against per 60, and they've allowed the least amount of shots on goal so far. So literally the only thing you could attribute this shit start to is poor goaltending and maybe bad puck luck. Right now, if you're a sports bettor and you want to bet them to make the playoffs, they're hovering around plus 150, plus 130, depending on what book you're looking at. I would hammer that. I already did. I hammered it this morning. I think that's a great bet. I think the Devils are going to make the playoffs.
They should be in a good spot to acquire a half-decent goaltender at a deadline, right?
Yeah. I think they maybe need to get rid of Lindy Ruff too, but maybe that's for next season.
Well, he seems to have the offense clicking analytically. But
maybe just not analytically, yes.
Lindy Ruff is
they were good analytically last year as well and just couldn't figure it out.
Well, it was the same thing. Their goalie sucked, but Jack Hughes was out for a good part of the year. Dougie Hamilton was pretty much out for the entire year. Those guys are healthy this year. They brought in some other guys. So, I really like the Devils this year.
I don't know. I agree with the analytics part, but they've also they haven't really played any really good teams yet.
And they'll be in a dogfight in that division too.
Yeah. I can't see them. It's going to be, I think it'd be not in no particular order, but I think Pittsburgh, Carolina, and the Rangers have top 3 locked down, right? And then there's the only 2 spots left are the wild cards. So teams that we've mentioned before is Ottawa, Buffalo, maybe, depending on Florida as well. Do you think they beat one of those guys out? I know the analytics look good, but they've kind of been a shitbag franchise for a while now.
Yeah, but so the Senators.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
Yeah, I just think it's
going to
come.
Melnick, though.
It's going to come down to the.
They hated him.
Yeah, I think it'll come down to the wire. But right now, they're still plus money. I think it's a good pick. Ave?
Layup lines here at Minnesota Wild.
Great. Talk about favorites. I just looked before what they were to make the playoffs. You want to know what they are?
Minus
180.
Minus 400.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what?
It's layup lines. They take a ton.
You did the assignment.
They have the 2nd most penalty minutes this season. They have the 6th worst save percentage in the league, but the 4th most expected goals for. I think they play a little differently too without Jordan Greenway because he plays with a little bit of fucking jam to his game.
I love Jordan Greenway.
Jordan is a horse.
Yeah. Jordan Greenway. Do you remember Jordan Greenway in those World Juniors? I thought he was a robot. Who is this guy? How have I never heard of him?
1 or 2 games this season now he's on the IR, so changes it up a little bit as a team that play physical. Again, Fleury's been so bad as well. So this is
it's dog food.
It's saying that it's if the Leafs were at a playoff spot and we just came up here and said the Leafs.
Yeah, but I think with the Wild too, though, they did lose Fiala and didn't really replace him with anything, and then they also have so much in what's the penalty for Parise and Suter's contracts? They basically have $10 million in dead cap space. So they're a good point, essentially a team like all the best teams in the NHL play like right under the cap, right?
Yeah.
This team is forced to play under it by $10 million.
Yeah, that's
no matter
true.
what.
That's a good point, actually.
So that's something I'm not completely sold on with the Wild.
And you saw why they like if they're doing that, it's because and then they're bringing up their young guys.
Yeah, so they're forcing guys like Marco Rossi to play bigger minutes, which I am high on, but to come in and fill the 80 points that Fiala was capable of is just not going to happen. If they can get the goaltending, I think they'll be fine. They'll make the playoffs, but if they don't, they're fucked.
Yeah, I think Fiala was obviously great, and I think he added a lot of skill to this lineup, but I still think these young guys will be able to make up for it. Not just one guy, just the group of them all together. Like, I really think Matt Boldy is going to take off this year. He's shown some pretty good promise. Even like some of their centers are gritty. Like even Eriksson Ek. I love Joel Eriksson Ek. He's awesome. Kalen Addison on the back end, he's shown to be really good this year. Dumba is honestly, I think Dumba's done. He's he's slow now. He's still big and powerful, but I don't think he adds much. There's a reason why Kalen Addison's quarterbacking the first power play now.
Yeah.
It's not Dumba anymore. So I agree, though, Abe. I mean, I don't know how you can't agree with the Minnesota Wild, but so yeah, those are the 3 topics we talked about today. I actually will be at the Minnesota Wild game this upcoming week on Wednesday night against the Montreal Canadiens. So a little bit less action on the cherry picking YouTube side next week, but be sure to check in on Twitter, OwnersBox Twitter, even the Discord for some great. I'll have some little videos maybe cooked up, kind of get the. There's a song I'm trying to think of that they play at one point in Minnesota. I don't know if it's Willy Willy or something, but I will be there for boots on the ground, live reporting, going alongside my brother, who's an absolute wreck at hockey games. So we'll see how he'll be able to handle it. But thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys on the next Cherry Pickin' podcast.